the trap that sometimes people fall into when they start thinking about programming for CrossFit, and this is why I really have embraced the West Side kind of mentality with conjugate stuff, is I really think following a percentage-based lifting program is extremely difficult when it comes to a CrossFit training program. Because if you start talking about a percentage-based back squat, Olympic lift, I don't care what it is, and you start stacking on, even if we're just talking about your average member that comes to the gym 5 or 6 days a week, if you take that regular programming and then you try to layer on top of it a lifting program that's percentage based, that most of these people are pulling from other places, and they're meant to be a standalone lifting program. They're meant to be a training program that is done as just a lifting program, and nothing else goes with it. You know, so you hear these people say, and this is no knock to the programs. The programs themselves can be excellent, right? But gosh, how many times have you heard people say, I'm going to do CrossFit and the hatch squat program.
Yes.
I'm going to do
CrossFit all the
CrossFit
time.
and the 20 rep back squat.
Nope.
I'm going to do this and the Bulgarian method. I'm like, you are in, right? I'm like, these guys are like, their job is to eat, sleep, and lift.
Yeah.
It's not to do CrossFit. And what happens is people get absolutely buried. And then they're like, why am I not seeing results? I'm lifting, I'm doing all this. And I'm like, hey, get rid of some of the most successful things I've seen with the athletes that I've worked with Spealler programming. We're talking about just a large group of people and individuals. I've even had individuals reach out to me. I had a high-level games athlete reach out to me one time, and they wanted to have me try helping them coach, and their volume dropped way down. Honest to goodness, we did a really similar thing that Chris was having him do, had me do, tweaked it to what they needed. And this was in the off season, and they were like, they literally said, I don't understand. They're like, my lifts are going up, but I'm training less.
Yeah.
And like, that's
exactly
exactly
normal
right.
human.
Science.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's it. And, but they couldn't handle it. They were like, it's not enough. And I'm like, just trust the process. We're just talking about a three-month block. And they left me because they couldn't wrap their head around it. And I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But some of the most successful things I've seen is approaching lifting with purpose, but a conjugate method. And even with Olympic lifting, I've written up a program that I've run through, and I've tried it twice. I tried a percentage-based Olympic lifting program with our online platform. And no lie, I don't think anyone PR'd their lifts off the percentage-based program along with CrossFit, right? So we were doing CrossFit and the percentage base. And then I wrote up one that is based off, it's called the build up or the workup method. And basically it's to give you, essentially you have to accumulate 5 sets of the exercise. And it was a Olympic lifting variation. And we would say you have to accumulate 5 sets within 20% of one another, and you find a 1 rep max for the day. So let's just say it was a clean and jerk.
Sure.
You build up and you find your perfect. Now that's the question, is someone really making it perfect?
Sure.
Right. Perfect 1 rep max for the day. And let's just, for number's sake, say it's 100 pounds. You have to make sure that you accumulate 5 total work sets within 20% of that. So as long as you have 5 work sets that are 80 pounds or higher, you're done for the day. And you may have hit that on the way up. You may have to do some deload sets, but that with accessory work, no percentages, numerous people PR'd on their Olympic lifts, because you cannot tell me that 90% feels like 90% after you did the filthy 50 and Fran and 400 meter runs. It's just not, it's not accurate.
No.
Yep.
Sorry, rant.
No, that was a beautiful rant.
Oh, that was like right up strength and conditioning, like alley.
Yeah.
Dustin, you want to spearhead this, and I'm gonna jump in.
Yeah, you can just knock me off the horse, because there's a few things that I want that he brought up.
You go ahead.
One, well, early CrossFit too, and I'm guilty of this measuring stick too. When guys like Rich or Dan Bailey or whatever posted workouts early on, and I'm following them, RX. I'm doing exactly what those guys are doing because I know I can stick with them, and I'm thinking I'm going to the hospital the next day, and I'm like, what is going on here? And it's the same thing. This is why you don't go to the guy in the gym that has 21-inch arms and ask him what he did for his arms.
Yeah.
There are superhumans out there, and
Yep.
CrossFit is exposed, brought quite a few of them to the forefront. And when people are kind of looking from the outside in, to look at their stature and their weight and what kind of weights they're moving, and I'm looking at that like I can do that comparable thing, so I must be able to do it too. Obviously, there's a variety of things going on that are crossing over different energy systems, but uh, there are superhumans that exist too, and those are not the people you should be getting advice from. Uh, Maybe even if you're questioning one of the superhumans, I've trained with some of those people, and they do have some things going on that allow them to recover a little bit better than the average person. So I mean, that would lend itself to that methodology of not just the individual person, but then on any given day where you're at with your biorhythms and things like that, are you suited to do a little bit better on that day or not? I mean, it's just another version of like a self auto-regulated type
Yeah.
of programming, and that's what we're talking about here. And there's a variety of ways to do it. And then what's going to be the most effective to communicate that as a coach in your setting in a CrossFit gym too, that's going to make sense across the board, because I think that's another conversation that um people like to have a lot of conjecture about optimal things, but when it comes down to the nuts and bolts of doing it on the daily in a training setting with a bunch of people, we're not talking about like training one off person.
Right.
It looks a lot different to have an effective methodology of what's going to really work well, that and transcends everyone in the room, from the weakest linked to the best athlete. And that's one of those things that I truly believe that it's going to work really well, because that's what the environment actually elicits as far as what's going to be usable there. But if I had a thought after that, I forgot it. So go ahead, Joe. And
No, I like Chris, you brought up like several programs, like you brought up Smolov, you brought up Hatch.
Yep.
And then the 20 rep program.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the squat every day program?
Yep. I mean, I remember Dave Lipson trying to back squat 500 pounds every day. Crazy, right? Wait, like kudos.
I can't
Dave.
do that.
Oh my gosh, I'd be dead. I mean, Dave's a freak. He's a superhuman, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, and two, I think one of the things, and this is just like, I think my passion and like my pet peeve, and like I hope it comes off right, is I get so frustrated sometimes by the allure that people have to want to follow the program of the elite when they forget that there's a building system to get there, and that just even might not be appropriate for your best performance. Like you might not do the best off of volume, and you could still be incredibly fit. And also just like, what the heck are we doing if you're not trying to legitimately go to the CrossFit Games or regionals, so sanctionals, right? What are you doing? Like, why? You can do CrossFit as your sport and do it so much smarter, and do it where you're walking around feeling healthy, feeling strong, feeling hardy, feeling fit, feeling conditioned, and not just completely run down. And there's a way to do that effectively. And it's not always the allure of the, train like the guy on the podium, right? Like there's a time and a place for that, but gosh, it's just, I wish I could just get in people's heads and be like, hey, like, what problem are you trying to solve? And what is it? If you want to get stronger and you want to get more fit, there might be a better way to do this. Or maybe what you're doing is great, but volume's not always the answer.
Yeah, that's the most frequent conversation I think I've had as a coach that transcends every environment that I've been in. Is that right there, is people getting these notions. And just like anything, I think there's a double-edged sword on both ends of this, but because social media has made things so accessible, people so accessible, what they're doing so accessible, and then people trying to make a living off them, their name and themselves too, which is nothing wrong with that. I totally get that. But that can lead, I don't know how many people it is, but that can get a lot of people derailed and chasing something they shouldn't be chasing. Because I think, you know, if I was to finish your thought there, it'd be, you really should be in the mindset of chasing your best self every day, and
Yeah.
really just competing and getting better at that, because that's going to make you satisfied in the long run, and happy and fulfilled. And if something greater builds off of that, and you have other opportunities, whatever those might be, um, that's amazing. That's fantastic. But I think people are so accessible, and in all these realms of strength, that it can get people starting to um, idolize on an unhealthy level with a lot of things like that, and get them really derailed and get their mind into a place that's you know, maybe motivating, but definitely not optimally productive.
Yeah, and hear me out. Like, this is not a knock on competitive
Right.
programming, because guess what? I mean, I did it for a decade, right? So I get it. But I think part of the reason why I'm so passionate about it is I know what it takes and I know what it costs. I think a lot of people don't know what it costs, right? And if you're in the game to really put the screws to it and try to win the CrossFit Games, by all means, like, if that's your passion, freaking go for it, right? And have an understanding of the sacrifice that it's going to take,